She said no to pinups, rewrote her publicity rules, and crossed out the glamour clause. One producer called her difficult. She called it professional. Hollywood wanted another starlet. Instead, they got someone who read her contracts, refused to pose sexy. Before she ever stepped in front of a film camera, Teresa Wright was already saying no. It was 1939. She'd just been spotted on Broadway, playing Marian Life with Father. A scout sent word to Samuel Goldwin, the Hollywood producer behind stars like Gary Cooper and Merle Oberon. Wright had the look, fresh-faced, expressive, and young. But when Goldwin offered her a contract, things got tense fast. She refused to pose for publicity shots in bathing suits. No pinups, no cheesecake, no fake smiles or forced glamour. Wright said she wasn't interested in selling sex. At just 21, she told Goldwyn's team she'd only do serious work. No one said that out loud back then, not to the man who helped define the Hollywood starlet. Goldwin was shocked. His publicity department wanted the usual rollout. Studio girls were supposed to pose, flirt, and play nice with the press. But Wright pushed back. She didn't want makeup artists transforming her face. She didn't want her hair curled into some soft focus fantasy. She wasn't rude about it, but she didn't budge. And somehow, Goldwyn signed her anyway. It was almost unheard of. Most newcomers were either desperate to break in or quickly shaped into a brand. Wright didn't care. She also made it clear in her contract that no photo shoots she didn't approve. If they asked her to do something she found silly or fake, she could decline. And she did. Often. The press didn't know what to make of her at first. She wasn't playing the game. But audiences noticed. She came across as smart, grounded, and real. Not flashy, not flirty, just different. And in an industry built on image, that made her stand out fast. Her screen debut was a slap. Wright's first film wasn't soft. It was brutal. The Little Foxes hit theaters in 1941, and she played Alexandra. Sweet but not stupid, stuck in a cold, greedy Southern family. The role wasn't glamorous. She didn't ask for special lighting. She wore plain clothes. No lipstick, no curls, just honesty. The director, William Wyler, wanted real tension. Wright gave it. There's a scene where Alexandra finally stands up to her toxic parents. She doesn't yell, she doesn't cry, she just walks away. Slow, steady, full of quiet rage. That moment hit like a slap across the screen. Audiences weren't used to subtle power like that, especially from a newcomer. Critics paid attention. They called her performance restrained and striking. She didn't play it big, but she didn't shrink either. She looked like a regular girl, tired, disappointed, but clear-eyed. It felt honest in a way most Hollywood roles didn't. Behind the scenes, Wright didn't make demands. She followed direction. But she did have one request. Don't glam her up. She wanted the character to look exactly how she felt, stuck in a house full of people who didn't see her. It worked. She was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. That rarely happened with a debut, especially not for a role with no sparkle. Goldwyn had worried she was too plain, too serious. But she proved you didn't need glitter to shine. You just had to tell the truth. Even Bette Davis, who played her icy mother in the film, praised her. Wright held her own in every scene, without showing off. She wasn't trying to compete. She was just real. And in a studio system built on artifice, that shook things up. The only double nominee. In 1942, Teresa Wright made Oscar history. At just 23, she became the first actor ever nominated for 2 Academy Awards in the same year, Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress. No one had pulled that off before, not even the legends. One nomination was for The Pride of the Yankees, where she played Eleanor Gehrig, the devoted wife of Lou Gehrig. It was a tough part. Most actresses might have played it with big, loud emotions. Wright didn't tear. She held back, made every word count, and let the silence do half the work. She didn't want to turn Eleanor into a tear machine. She wanted her to feel real. Strong, calm, and fiercely loyal. Audiences loved her for it. The second nomination came from Mrs. Miniver. In that one, she played Carol, a young bride in a small British village during World War II. She wasn't in the film long, but she made every second matter. She was thoughtful, brave, and completely believable. Her final scene, where Carol is injured in an air raid, hit audiences hard. Wright didn't milk it. She let the stillness speak. Critics couldn't stop talking about her range. 2 different roles, 2 different accents, 2 very different women, and both completely convincing. Even more impressive, this was only her 2nd and 3rd film. She just debuted the year before. When the 15th Academy Awards were announced, Wright was sitting among the biggest names in the industry. She took home the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for Mrs. Miniver. She didn't win Best Actress, but that hardly mattered. Her place in the business was locked. The double nomination made her impossible to ignore. The press tried to turn her into a headline. Hollywood's new golden girl, the actress who came out of nowhere. She pushed back. She told them she wasn't here to be famous. She was here to work. And that's exactly what she kept doing. Only a handful of performers have ever managed 2 Oscar nods in the same year. Fewer still did it while barely out of their teens. Teresa Wright didn't need a long resume to make history. She just needed the right roles and the nerve to play them her way. Starred in Hitchcock's darkest role. While still under Goldwin's contract, Teresa Wright insisted on taking a part he didn't want her in. She played Charlie in Alfred Hitchcock's Shadow of a Doubt, filmed in 1942 and released in 1943. It wasn't the bright studio image she'd shown before. Dark, wary, cautious. She stayed firm, and it changed everything. She played Charlie, a smart teenager who slowly realizes her favorite uncle might be a killer. It wasn't a sweet part. It was dark, intense, and full of quiet fear. Wright didn't play it cute or wide-eyed. She played it sharp. You could see her thinking through every scene. Hitchcock loved control, but he trusted Wright. She didn't ask for flattering camera angles. She didn't care about looking polished. He later said she never asked to be lit prettier, and that's part of why her performance worked. She didn't want to soften the story. In one scene, her character listens as her uncle describes how worthless people are. She doesn't interrupt. She watches him closely. Her face stays still, but something changes. The trust is gone. She doesn't speak, doesn't move, just sits with it, clear and cold. Hitchcock later said it was one of the most chilling performances he ever directed. The critics agreed. The film got strong reviews, and many singled her out. Even when standing next to Joseph Cotten, an established lead, Wright held her ground. She didn't play scared. She played careful. Most actresses avoided roles like this back then. Playing someone afraid, suspicious, or angry wasn't attractive. But Wright didn't worry about looking attractive. She worried about getting it right. Her instincts paid off. Shadow of a Doubt became one of Hitchcock's personal favorites. He called it the best film I ever made. A big part of that was Wright's performance. She gave the movie its heart and its tension. Stood up to Samuel Goldwin. By 1943, Teresa Wright had won an Oscar, earned 3 nominations in 2 years, and become one of the most respected actresses in the business. But she was about to do something that most stars wouldn't dare: challenge her own boss. Samuel Goldwin had signed her back in 1939. He'd taken a gamble, agreeing to her demands: no cheesecake photos, no fake interviews, no publicity stunts. But as her fame grew, so did the pressure. Goldwin expected her to start playing along. He wanted her to smile for photographers, attend parties, and help sell the studio's image. Wright refused. She wouldn't pose in swimsuits, wouldn't appear in magazine spreads that felt staged, wouldn't flatter gossip writers just to get good press. Goldwin warned her she was making a mistake. She kept saying no. Eventually, he suspended her. It was a big deal. Stars didn't fight their studios, especially not in public. But Wright didn't back down. She wrote a letter to the New York Times explaining her side. She said she didn't believe in pretending to be someone she wasn't. She wasn't going to act girlish or glamorous in real life when she didn't feel that way. If that meant losing roles, so be it. Goldwin claimed she was ungrateful. He accused her of violating her contract and damaging her marketability. He dropped her soon after. Just like that, Teresa Wright was no longer a Goldwin girl. Everyone assumed her career would take a hit. Some thought she'd disappear, but she didn't. She kept working on her terms. Independent projects, theater roles, serious scripts, no soft lighting, no fluff. Years later, Wright said she never regretted it. She told interviewers, "I couldn't do it their way." And she didn't try. She chose honesty over stardom, even if it cost her. Blackballed but unbothered. After her split with Samuel Goldwin, the phone stopped ringing. Studios got nervous. Wright had just taken on one of the biggest names in Hollywood and walked away clean. That didn't sit well with the system. She wasn't fired for scandal. She was fired for saying no too many times. By 1944, Wright was quietly blackballed. Not officially, but studios hesitated. She had no contract, no handlers, no guarantee she'd play nice. In that era, being a difficult woman meant you might never work again. But she didn't flinch. She pivoted fast. Instead of chasing another studio deal, she signed on for Casanova Brown, a comedy with Gary Cooper. It wasn't a massive hit, but it showed she wasn't going anywhere. She followed that with The Best Years of Our Lives in 1946, a film that won Best Picture. Wright played Peggy, a young woman dealing with post-war heartbreak. She kept it low-key, no glamour shots, just raw honesty. The role wasn't designed to steal scenes, but she made it count. Her performance stood out for what it didn't do, and audiences felt it. Even without a studio contract, she stayed booked. She worked with William Wyler again. She did independent films. She joined theater productions. While other actresses were locked into 5- or 7-year deals, Wright had the freedom to say yes or no to anything. And she used it. Plenty of stars got tossed aside for less. Wright survived because she had the one thing no one could fake: talent. She didn't need scandal or reinvention. She didn't chase headlines. She stayed the course and let the work speak. Critics noticed. So did directors. And slowly, the industry adjusted. They stopped expecting her to play the game and just let her do the work. She wasn't seen at every party. She didn't turn up in gossip columns. But she kept getting cast in roles that mattered. That's how she built a career that lasted by refusing to play by the rules everyone else followed. She wasn't just surviving after Goldwin, she was proving she didn't need him at all. Marriage, divorce, no hiding. Teresa Wright married screenwriter Niven Bush. He'd worked on The Postman Always Rings twice and Duel in the Sun. On paper, they looked like a perfect match. Two serious creatives who hated Hollywood fluff. They kept a low profile, skipped parties, and stayed out of the headlines. For a while, it worked. They had 2 children and moved to a ranch in the San Fernando Valley. Wright took fewer roles and focused on her family. But by the early 1950s, things had changed. They were growing apart. She wanted different projects, different energy. Bush had his own pace. In 1952, they quietly filed for divorce. There were no fights in the press, no blame tossed around, no tabloid drama, but it still made news. Studios usually tried to spin this stuff, blame schedules, cite mutual respect, and move on. Wright didn't bother with spin. She didn't deny it, didn't cover it up. She just moved forward. And she kept working. That same year, she starred in California Conquest and Count the Hours, films that didn't make huge waves but kept her in motion. She also started turning back to the stage, where she had more control over what she played and how she played it. What stood out wasn't just the divorce, but how she handled it. In a time when actresses were told to protect their image, Wright showed hers didn't need protecting. She didn't fake a happy home or hide her choices behind studio press releases. She raised 2 kids while turning down easy roles and bad scripts. There were no helpers behind the scenes, no press trying to paint her as the perfect mother. She just made it work, quietly, in a business that rarely gave women the space to do both. Years later, she said the only thing she ever cared about was doing honest work. That applied to her career and to her personal life too. Wright's divorce didn't hurt her career because she didn't let it define her. She wasn't chasing headlines, and that made the press lose interest fast. She didn't make it a story. She just kept showing up and doing the work. Television before it was cool. By the mid-1950s, movie stars didn't touch television, at least not the serious ones. Film actors called it the small time, something for has-beens or beginners. But Teresa Wright didn't care. She went where the scripts were strong, and in the 50s, some of the best writing was happening live on television. She started appearing in dramatic anthologies like the United States Steel Hour, Playhouse 90, and the Alcoa Hour. These weren't sitcoms or soap operas. They were full-length plays broadcast live, with no second takes and no safety net. Wright loved it. Theater-trained and calm under pressure, she fit right in. Television directors loved working with her. She showed up prepared, hit her marks, and delivered real emotion fast. One standout was her role in the Margaret Bourke-White story in 1956, where she played the trailblazing photojournalist. It was rare to see a woman lead a one-hour drama about work, not love or heartbreak. Wright didn't soften the role. She played Bourke-White as direct, smart, and slightly obsessive. It stood out. She also popped up in the Alfred Hitchcock Hour, the Ford Television Theater, and General Electric Theater. Some episodes were written by top screenwriters. Some had future movie directors behind the camera. Wright didn't care about the medium, just the quality. While other film stars waited for roles that fit their image, she went straight to the good parts, wherever they showed up. She was ahead of the curve. A decade later, other movie actors would follow her lead. By then, television was booming, but Wright got there first. She didn't brag about it, she just took the job seriously, and for viewers, seeing a movie star do live television made the stories feel bigger. It gave television a kind of weight it hadn't earned yet. Took on controversial stage roles. As Hollywood changed in the 1960s, Teresa Wright didn't chase the spotlight. She went back to the stage, where she could pick roles that mattered. Instead of playing sweet or safe, she stepped into characters with flaws, pain, and real problems. She joined productions of All My Sons, Death of a Salesman, and I Never Sang for My Father. These weren't soft stories. They dealt with war, guilt, failure, and family breakdowns. And Wright leaned into every messy part. In All My Sons, she played Kate Keller, a mother in denial about her son's death in World War II. The role was hard. Kate isn't warm. She's broken. But Wright didn't try to make her likable. She made her human. On stage, she didn't raise her voice often. But when she did, it landed like a hammer. She brought that same stillness to Death of a Salesman. Playing Linda Lohman meant standing next to a man unraveling and not pulling focus. Wright kept it grounded. Her performance made the heartbreak sharper, not softer. These weren't flashy Broadway leads. They were the roles most actresses her age avoided because they didn't come with glamour or easy applause. Wright didn't care. She wasn't there to charm. She was there to dig in. Off stage, she still stayed private. No interviews about her process, no press tours. She came, rehearsed, performed, and left. And directors loved her for it. In regional theaters across the country, she brought quiet power to each part. Audiences were surprised. Many expected the soft-spoken movie star from Mrs. Miniver. What they got was someone who could crack a character open without raising her voice. By the 1970s, she had built a second life in theater. Not as a celebrity, just as a working actor. She didn't need a camera or close-up, just a chair, a stage, and a scene that mattered. Most actors slow down by this age. Wright didn't. She just changed lanes. No flash, no filters. Just the truth, one line at a time. And that's what made people keep watching. Final film was Unfiltered. Teresa Wright's last film role came in 1997. She was 78 years old and hadn't appeared in a major movie in over a decade. But when director Francis Ford Coppola asked her to join The Rainmaker, she said yes. The movie was based on a John Grisham novel. It starred Matt Damon as a young lawyer taking on a crooked insurance company. Wright played Miss Birdie, an elderly client who lives alone and pretends to have a fortune. The role wasn't pretty, it wasn't dramatic, it was small but sharp. Miss Birdie lies to feel important. She wants attention, not pity. Wright gave her dignity without dressing her up. No makeup tricks, no soft lighting. Just a woman who's lonely and doesn't want to be forgotten. She didn't try to steal scenes, but she didn't fade either. Her voice was quiet but firm. Her eyes still did the work. Even surrounded by new stars and fast edits, she held her ground like it was second nature. Coppola kept her scenes simple. No frills. He knew she didn't need them, and critics noticed. Some reviews called her performance one of the film's most honest. A few younger viewers didn't even realize she was an Oscar winner from the 1940s. That's how seamless she was. Wright didn't use the role to relaunch anything. There was no press tour, no comeback story. She filmed it, watched it, and moved on. It was the last time she appeared on screen. Most actors her age either chase legacy projects or disappear. Wright did neither. She took a part that wasn't about her past, her fame, or her image. It was just a job she wanted to do well. In the end, it fit. Her career had started with plain truth and ended the same way.